For the last 100 years or so, we've all been told a story about smoking. But what if that whole story isn't just a simple warning about a bad habit? What if it's one of the biggest, most successful deceptions in modern history? Just keep that question in your head for a bit. Because what if the deadliest part of smoking, the thing that really gets you, is the one thing we aren't being warned about? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the story, the science, and the lie that has kept millions and millions of people hooked. So, to really get the lie, you got to go back to the beginning. You have to understand how this whole habit was built in the first place. This was no accident. It was an absolute masterclass in marketing and manipulation that turned a toxic plant into a global cultural icon. And it all started pretty harmlessly. When Columbus's crew showed up in the Bahamas, they were given these dried leaves as a gift. A few sailors tried it, got hooked, and boom, they brought the habit back to Europe. But things really went nuts during the Industrial Revolution. All of a sudden, cigarettes were cheap, they were easy to mass produce, and they were ready for a marketing machine that was about to change everything. And this is where the marketing genius really kicks in. First, they went after the guys. They sold cigarettes as the ultimate symbol of masculinity. The rugged movie stars, the cool soldiers, all the tough guys. Then, once they basically cornered that market, they did a complete 180. Smoking became a torch of liberty for women, a sign of elegance, of independence, of high fashion. Talk about flexible. They could change the entire identity of this thing on a dime, just depending on who they wanted to sell to. And hey, if making it cool wasn't enough, why not make it seem healthy? This is a real ad campaign. Can you believe it? They used the authority and trust that people had in their doctors to say, see, it's fine. They weren't just selling a cigarette, they were selling a doctor-approved lifestyle. It is absolutely wild to look back at this now. So what are you actually smoking? Let's look at the recipe. You've got paper, okay? You've got tobacco leaf, simple enough. But the real kicker is that third ingredient, over 600 chemical additives. Just imagine trying to make a meal with 600 different ingredients. That is a crazy chemical cocktail, and it's all designed for one thing and one thing only. And just look at what's inside that cocktail. You've got tar, yep, the same black gunk they use to pave roads. Arsenic, as in literal rat poison. Cadmium, you find that in battery acid. Chromium, they use that to make paint. And then there's ammonia. They add that toxic chemical for a very specific reason, to make the nicotine hit your brain faster, which makes it even more addictive. You're not just smoking a plant, you're literally inhaling an industrial waste bin. Now, you'd think with something this, toxic, the truth would eventually come out. And it did. Smoking became public enemy number one. But did the industry just pack up and go home? No way. It was time for Act 2. They just reinvented the whole game. Just take a look at this. It's incredible. The biggest alternative products out there, the ones they market to help you quit smoking, are owned by the exact same companies that sold you the cigarettes in the first place. Voos, that's from the same folks who own Kent. Juul, that's Altria, the parent company of Marlboro. And IQOS? Philip Morris International, the makers of Marlboro and L&M. Yeah, this is no accident. It's a cynical but honestly brilliant business model. First, they get you hooked for life on a cheap product. Then, they turn around and sell you a more expensive, high-tech solution that, by the way, still gives you that addictive nicotine hit. It's just the next level of misdirection. Okay, and this is the absolute core of the deception, the biggest lie of all. We all know that smoking causes lung cancer, right? It's plastered on every pack, it's in every single warning. But what if that warning is actually the very thing that keeps people hooked? Look at this number, 80 to 90%. That's the percentage of heavy smokers who will never get lung cancer. Just let that sink in for a second. The huge majority of people who smoke their entire lives will not die from the one disease they're constantly told to be afraid of. And that is the psychological trap. Think about it from a smoker's point of view. They hear lung cancer, lung cancer, lung cancer, but then they look at their own life. They see their uncle who smoked for 50 years, their grandpa, their friends, and they're fine. Their own experience seems to completely contradict the warning. So what does your brain do? It goes, okay, this is obviously an exaggeration, it's a scare tactic, it's not going to happen to me. That single statistic gives them the perfect excuse to just light up another one. So if lung cancer isn't the big bad wolf for most smokers, then what is? This is where we pull back the curtain on the real end game. The real killer that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time? This is the big question, right? And the answer is, well, it's way faster, way more sudden, and a lot more common than you've been led to believe.
Okay, the data tells the real story here. If you're a smoker right in the prime of your life, say between 40 and 59 years old, your risk of just suddenly dying is double. You are twice as likely to just drop dead as a non-smoker. We're not talking about a slow, drawn-out disease. We're talking about sudden death.
So, the main killer isn't some slow-moving cancer. It's sudden cardiac death. It's the massive heart attack or stroke that just comes out of absolutely nowhere. All those chemicals we talked about, they cause immediate damage. They inflame the lining of your arteries and literally make your blood stickier. So while everyone's worried about their lungs, the real war is happening in your arteries. And here's the really brutal truth of it all. The reason 80 to 90% of smokers don't get lung cancer is terrifyingly simple. They simply don't live long enough for the lung cancer to get them. It's like you're creating little traffic jams in your bloodstream every single day, until one day a road gets blocked for good. They die suddenly of a heart attack in their 50s, long before cancer even has a chance to develop in their 70s. You know, all these stats and numbers can feel a little abstract, but for me, this isn't just data. This is personal. This is my family's story. See, both of my grandfathers were heavy, lifelong smokers, and they both died from heart attacks. But here's the really wild part. Looking back, I realized that nobody in the family ever connected it to the cigarettes. Not once. It was just a tragedy, a heart problem. That's how good the lung cancer misdirection is. It works even after the fact. My own little story with smoking was pretty short, thankfully. I was 12 and my dad handed me a cigarette. I took a couple of puffs and my immediate reaction was just disgust. The taste, the burn, the smell, I just remember thinking, why would anyone choose to do this? It's awful. I handed it back to him and never touched one again. It's just such an unnatural thing to do, but we've all been conditioned to see it as normal or even cool. So that brings us right back to the beginning. The great smoking lie isn't that smoking is somehow safe. We know it's not. The lie is that the danger you're told to fear isn't the one that's most likely to kill you. The real danger is sudden, it's unexpected, and it's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Now that you know the real story, who do you know that needs to hear this too?